Okay, and away we go. Welcome in. This is your host Scott with the Teal Shirt Report podcast. This is episode show number number 64. Episode show number 64, the Teal Shirt Report podcast. I know when we did 63, we had a 63B listed. We might have mentioned it was 63A, but it is 63A or B, your choice. But this is episode show number 64. We've got an updated SEC power rankings, Big J report SEC power rankings top five. We'll get to that momentarily. The Jaguars play the Chargers, and this is a home game. We might as well hit that up real quick because kickoff is coming up today. This is Sunday, November the 16th. Man, we're getting closer to Thanksgiving. I love this time of the year. Interestingly enough, earlier in the week, last Tuesday, which I believe it was November the 11th, which was actually Veterans Day, we got down to 28 degrees that morning. Now the weather changes. It's 60 this morning, 60 on Sunday morning. As you're listening to the Teal Shirt Report podcast, and we appreciate you tuning in. I got the line on the Los Angeles Chargers Jaguars game, and the first thing that I noticed when looking at it, I said, man, the experts out in Vegas, they think it's going to be a close game. Let's take a look real quick. The line is 3 points. And the game is at Everbank Stadium, but the Chargers having a real good year so far, and their quarterback is playing well. The Chargers are a 3-point favorite. So the Jaguars are actually a 3-point underdog at home. The line we've got from our source, the LA Chargers favored by 3. The over-under 44, exactly 44. The over-under is 44. LA Chargers will win. Jacksonville will cover. Wow, that means they're looking at a close game with the Chargers favored by 3, but Jacksonville will cover the spread. The Chargers will win, and the total will go over. Now, that tells me a few things. It says the experts aren't respecting the Jaguars' pass rush. The quarterback, Herbert, is playing very well. And it's going to come down to protecting the football, which means eliminating turnovers if you're the Jaguars and vice versa for the Chargers. The Chargers still have an axe to grind with the Jaguars for that big playoff win the Jaguars had a few years ago when the Jaguars came from behind, way behind, and won the game. I never know what to think about the NFL now. You got to watch the games. The loss in the last game was just I hate to even say gut wrenching anymore, but that's what it was. You're winning 29-10 late in the third quarter. You decide to go for 2 points when you could have had the extra point and made it 30. I didn't like that. And a lot of people say, hindsight is what it is. But I walked outside on the extra point. I was expecting them to kick the extra point. Then I came back to the monitor, and it's still 29-10. And I'm thinking, damn, we missed the extra point. No, the Jaguars went for 2 points. And the point I'll make about that, it's almost like Coach Liam Cohen said, man, I think them guys are going to come back and catch us. And I don't like that mindset. And I'm not saying that's the exact mindset that Liam Cohen had. I think he was going more by the book, like the analytics, if you will. But this is another close game. What are the Jaguars now? 5-4. And before the season started, everybody said, hey, you're going to be 5-4 after 9 games. We probably would have said, hey, we'll take that because that means we're somewhat of a playoff contender, even though the Jaguars are down in second place and a good bit behind the Indianapolis Colts, who are having a very, very good year so far. What is the score going to be in this game? I think the experts are saying the Chargers win this thing. Like, I'm going to say our source. There's a lot of experts. Our source is basically saying the Chargers win this thing 24-23 at Everbank Stadium. Remember that score. I'm not saying it, but our source is. The Chargers, a 3-point favorite. And our source says the LA Chargers will win, but Jacksonville covers the spread, and the total will go over. Could that be a 24-23 game? Which would be, what's that, 47 points. The over-under is 44. So that's why our source is saying the total will go over. I think the pass rush is the key thing. And I know a lot of people said, Trayvon Walker just had wrist surgery here a few weeks ago. He's not 100%. But you know what? The wrist probably doesn't affect you with your lateral movement going back and forth. And he's wearing something on the wrist, right? Protecting the wrist. This is my take on Trayvon Walker. I think he has difficulty when he goes up against the top flight offensive tackles, whether it's the left tackle, the right tackle, or whoever he's going up against. And the majority of the time, it's going to be that. I'm trying to picture where Trayvon lines up at. I think he typically goes up against either tackle, but probably it could be on either side, right? Trayvon has been known when he got blocked a lot by Laramie Tunsil last year. When Tunsil was with the Texans, he finally got so frustrated he went up around the top in the middle and tried to come up the middle after he couldn't get around the tackle. I think Trayvon is probably a pretty good player, and especially when the offensive tackles are not the top ones in the league. So I think the Jaguars are going to have to get some kind of pass rush on Herbert, or he'll do what he wants. He's playing very, very well right now for the LA Chargers. Do I think the Jaguars will win? I tell you what, that is a tough pick. They're at home. They got to get some breaks, got to get some big plays. But the pass rush, what I see, the pass rush is going to be key on both sides of the ball. Will the Jaguars' offensive line hold up? Will the pass rushers, and we know who they are, the primary pass rushers for the Jaguars is supposed to be Josh Allen. He's getting a ton of money, millions of dollars to rush the passer. His production went down last year. Where are the Jaguars? I saw a guy put something up on Twitter, which is now known as the X, said the Jaguars were toward the tail end of the bottom of the league in pass rushing. That has got to change today, or they will lose this football game, and it'll probably be another close game. But, the amazing thing is this stuff is minute, where, you turn over the ball at the wrong time. The other team gets a big play on you because you couldn't get to the quarterback, Herbert, or whoever's playing quarterback. And this is a difficulty for the Jags pass rush. Now, in past couple of years, we've seen the pass rushers, man, they loaded. They got some stats against a bad team. All of a sudden, man, this guy's got this many sacks. He's got him in 3 sacks in one game. And then you're getting a big contract. Trayvon had his 5th year. The option was exercised, but I saw a guy on the X said, man, they're probably going to franchise tag Trayvon Walker. I don't even see that. They'll negotiate with him, I think. I think Devin Lloyd, the linebackers, really had a good year when he's been healthy. I think he'll test the market. I really do. I'm thinking Devin Lloyd's not going to be back with the Jaguars. I think he tests the market. And if there's one team that bites, you remember the Titans? Gave Calvin Ridley $50 million guaranteed, and Calvin Ridley, I think he's kind of injured right now. He's not even playing for the Titans, right? So that is some of what's going on. You're listening to the Teal Shirt Report podcast, and yes, I have got the power rankings. We're going to talk about those. I didn't mean to get off on well, we mainly cover the Jaguars, so we do need to talk about them. And I didn't know we would talk about the Jaguars for that long a period of time, but that's okay because this is why we're here, to talk about the Jaguars, give you our opinion. You're tuned in. You are absolutely tuned into the Teal Shirt Report podcast. This is episode show number 64 of the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We got the Big J Report SEC Power Rankings on the screen on the YouTube version of our podcast. I know we had actually gotten behind on the audio version, but we're catching up. So if you listen mainly on audio and not on YouTube, or even you do a little bit of both, the audio is pretty good because you can go back and you get kind of a refresher on what we've talked about, over the past few days, past few weeks. SEC Power Rankings. Here we go. Big J Report SEC Power Rankings top 5. And, John Gaylor, I've gone back and reviewed some things I posted in the past. We've had Missouri up there. Vandy got in the top 5, I believe, one week. Oklahoma was in there. And God forbid Auburn was in there after they beat Baylor. Everybody said Baylor had a pretty good team, and Auburn beat them. And then things were kind of downhill after that for the Auburn Tigers / War Eagles, if you will. But the Big J Report SEC Power Rankings, Texas A&M number 1 at 10-0. Georgia has moved up to number 2. Georgia had a huge win. They blew out Texas. Big win for the Georgia Bulldogs. Ole Miss outlasted Florida, and Florida had a couple of leads at different times in this game. Ole Miss found a way to win. They had the better team. They won the game, Ole Miss 34, the Florida Gators 24. We got Ole Miss at number 3 at 10-1. Alabama lost 23-21 to Oklahoma, but I've got Alabama at 4 and Oklahoma at 5, and that's basically because of the conference record mainly. Alabama's 6-1 in the conference. This was their first conference loss. Oklahoma's 4-2 in the conference. So I'm going to keep Alabama ahead of Oklahoma, even though Alabama won the game by 2 points. So you got top 5. You got Texas A&M 1, Georgia 2, Ole Miss 3, Alabama 4. Alabama still just with 1 conference loss. Oklahoma's got 2 conference losses. As far as the SEC goes, Alabama beat Georgia, right? And then I believe Georgia beat Ole Miss. You got 3 teams, rock, scissors, paper. I don't know who's going to get in. It's going to depend on how the rest of the season shakes down. But you got Texas A&M is going to be in the SEC title game. They don't know who they're playing yet. I don't know what all the percentages are for Georgia getting into the title game. I think Georgia, they got a really good shot. I got them at number 2 right now. And that would mean if people were listening to me, Georgia would be playing Texas A&M in the SEC championship game. Ole Miss, who lost to Georgia, they're number 3. Alabama's number 4. And Alabama actually beat Georgia, right? So you got 3 teams, in a sense, kind of tied for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Georgia may have the edge there. They're 7-1 in the conference. Ole Miss is 6-1 in the conference. Alabama's 6-1. Ole Miss still has to play the Egg Bowl. And I believe Ole Miss has that would be their last game, the Egg Bowl, because they're 10-1. That would be their 12th game. Georgia's got a tough one coming up against Georgia Tech. And I believe Georgia's got another conference game as well. So it's going to come down to whatever shakes down the rest of November. Should I pull up the Georgia schedule? Mad Max with the madmaxmix.weebly.com. Max is a big Georgia Bulldog fan. They got, Georgia's got a tough schedule. Nobody really thought Georgia Tech would be quite as good as they have been this year, right? You remember the 1980 championship Georgia won? Pull up the results from that season sometime and see. And this will really give you an indication of how good a coach Vince Dooley was at times, because they won a lot of close games and they were undefeated. We'll have to do that sometime here on the podcast. But I remember the 1980 Georgia Bulldogs. Man, they were in a lot of close games, but they won the national championship. Georgia beat Texas 35-10. This game was in Athens. And I do want to pull up the rest of Georgia's schedule, because it has actually turned out that Georgia has the Georgia Bulldogs probably have one of the tougher schedules, because Georgia Tech has turned out to be a really good football team. They're ranked. They're in the top 20. Georgia just beat Texas. Georgia will play Charlotte on November 22nd. That should be a win. Georgia will play Georgia Tech on November the 28th. That's a Friday game at 3:30 p.m. That'd be like a national TV game, and I'm assuming that's the Friday after Thanksgiving on November the 28th. So Georgia beats Charlotte, and Georgia beats Georgia Tech. I think I'm putting Georgia in the title game, because if they win those two games, Georgia would be sitting at 11-1. The best Alabama could be would be 10-2 overall. I know Alabama has another conference game against Auburn, but these teams are pretty close. I mean, Texas A&M's 10-0 and 7-0, but you got Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama. After that, I got Oklahoma at 5. On the bubble, we got Vanderbilt. Who do we got on the bubble? Let me pull this back up. We got Vandy on the bubble, Texas, Missouri, Tennessee. After that, probably LSU. I can't put LSU in the bubble. LSU is 6-4 and 3-4. LSU has 4 losses in the SEC. The Florida Gators, my Florida Gators, 3-7 overall, 2-5 in the SEC, and the Gators will be obviously getting a new coach. Who will that coach be? There were chants in the stands at Oxford saying, "We want Lane." The Ole Miss fans, they have made their intentions clear to Lane Kiffin, and obviously they want Lane Kiffin to stay there, right? But who will Florida hire as their new head football coach? Lane Kiffin is obviously their top choice, but Lane Kiffin is also the top choice of LSU, Florida, Auburn, maybe even the New York Giants, and perhaps even the Miami Dolphins. Lane has a big, huge opportunity to parlay his next job into a lot of money. And I'm sure if he stays at Ole Miss, he'll get a pretty good raise. So there's more money coming Lane Kiffin's way. So that's pretty much the SEC. Texas A&M number 1, Georgia 2, Ole Miss 3, Alabama 4, Oklahoma 5. That's our top 5 in the SEC. The next question, who will Florida hire as their new head football coach? What's your opinion? Please put them in the comments. And bear in mind, LSU's got to hire a new coach too. Man, they're fighting with Brian Kelly over that buyout money now. There's been some talk going back and forth from the lawyers. I think LSU wanted to give him 25 or 30 million. I think Brian Kelly's group wanted 43 million, and now I think they really want the original $54 million buyout. And remember, our executive producer JC, 2 heads are better than 1. And we're talking about, it's not going to be coins. It's going to be what the preacher calls quiet money. Talking about a big hefty check, or maybe nowadays they put those millions into, like, they just dump it or deposit it, a big deposit into your bank account. Hey, where's your bank account, Brian? We're going to dump the money in there. My goodness. College football has changed. I kind of hate to see the Florida Gators get into some kind of deal with Lane Kiffin with a big buyout at the end. But basically the brain trust and the supporters at Florida, the fan base with the money, they're going to do whatever it takes to get Lane Kiffin. That kind of, to me, is the sad part. But there's a lot of other teams that are willing to do pretty much the same thing. Isn't that right? Jaguars, a 3-point underdog at home. Our source says the Chargers will win the game, but the Jaguars have covered the spread. And so basically, our source is looking for the Chargers to win by 1 or 2 points. JC, our executive producer, want to say hello to you. And I was looking over the concert areas. Got Carla Bonoff coming to Northeast Florida, too. You can see that in our concert listings at the bigjreport.com in the Neighbors 2 section where we list the concerts. Also, JC, I thought I'd let you know, Foreigner, it looks like Lou Graham is kind of reuniting with Foreigner now, at least in 2026. Foreigner with Lou Graham, a Night Ranger at the St. Augustine Amphitheater in St. Augustine, Florida, on Friday night, April the 17th of 2026 at 7:30 p.m. Molly Hatchet is going to make an appearance, and keep in mind, Molly Hatchet, all their original members, the Danny Joe Browns. Danny Joe Brown passed away. Gosh, it's been 20 years or more or less ago. The lead singer, Mad Max, a big fan of Danny Joe Brown from Molly Hatchet fame. Yes, they were from the south side of Jacksonville. Leonard Skinner was primarily from the west side. So, I know my groups from way back when, but Molly Hatchet will be at the Ponte Vedra Concert Hall coming up in late November. We've got that show up on the website at bigjreport.com in the Neighbors 2 section. All the original members, and I know there's been a lot of those guys in Molly Hatchet now have been there for a long time, but they're not the original members. But if you'd like to go to the show, it will be at the Ponte Vedra Concert Hall coming up in late November in just a few days from now. And that show is listed in the concert information at Neighbors 2. Foreigner kind of intrigues me. Foreigner with Lou Graham, because he was doing solo stuff for a long time and even did a show at Mount Dora and a few other places as just Lou Graham. Great singer. And he's a veteran guy now. He's been around a long time. We're all getting older. Lou Graham's getting older. I'm getting older. Everybody since yesterday is getting a day older. But I thought this was kind of cool to point out, JC. Foreigner with Lou Graham and Night Ranger at the St. Augustine Amphitheater in St. Augustine, Florida on Friday night, April the 17th of 2026 at 7:30 p.m. We're 22 minutes in, JC. We want to salute our sponsors, Saucer Realty and Capital, for your real estate needs in North Florida. Whether it's home, residential, business, or commercial real estate, Saucer Realty and Capital, you'll find the link for Larry Saucer and Saucer Realty and Capital on our homepage right near the North Florida weather information. We only got down to 60 degrees this morning on Sunday morning, November the 16th, but back on November the 11th, we got down to 28. November the 12th got down to 30. Now the temperature's rising, still cool at night. We're going to go down to maybe as low as 53 late tonight and the next night. But high temperatures today around 78, 79 degrees in Jacksonville, Florida, and North Florida. North Florida Entertainment, I saw the Iceman won a matinee where a lot of the school kids go to these matinees when they have an afternoon hockey game. Let me take a look at the Jacksonville Icemen. They got off to a really good start. They were like 5-2. And now the Icemen have lost. They lost about 3 games in a row. Then they won their afternoon game. And now they've won again. They're now 7-5. 12 games into the season, the Jacksonville Icemen are now 7-5. We'll take a look at some high school football scores. Eufaula got knocked out of the playoffs last week, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. I think Alabama started about a week earlier than Florida. There's a lot of stuff going on. Let me go to bigjreport.com. Take a look at the high school scores. You can look along with me. Go to the website bigjreport.com. Again, if we didn't do it recently, the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp won the whole ball of wax in AAA baseball. They were basically your AAA champions of the International League. They even beat the Pacific Coast League champions and won the entire AAA baseball championship, the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. The Jacksonville Icemen, after losing about 3 games in a row, they've won a couple of games in a row now. The Jacksonville Icemen off to a decent start at 7-5 in the East Coast Hockey League. We'll cover some high school football for you now. By the way, in the comments, is Lane Kiffin taking the Florida job? He was quoted. Lane Kiffin, let's see, was actually quoted. Let's take a look here. Ole Miss fans sent clear messages to Lane Kiffin during the Florida game. They were kind of chanting. What were they chanting? We want Lane, right? So they were chanting Lane. The Ole Miss fans were chanting, we want Lane. Well, they've got Lane. They just don't want Lane to leave. Lane Kiffin, the chant was Ole Miss fans chanted, we want Lane. We want Lane. So they made their feelings in Oxford, made them clear about their current head coach, Lane Kiffin. No doubt about that. I know Lane Kiffin has said he loves Ole Miss, but does he love them enough to stay there? That is a question. There's a whole lot of money out there for Lane Kiffin, whether it's LSU, Florida, Auburn, New York Giants, maybe even the Miami Dolphins. Let's take a look at some high school football scores. Eufaula did get knocked out of the playoffs, JC. Want to thank our sponsors again, Saucer Realty and Capital for your real estate needs in North Florida. The MadMaxMix.weebly.com. Mad Max, man, he plays some great music. I've heard him play Molly Hatchet, Leonard Skinner, Steely Dan, the Atlanta Rhythm Section, Pink Floyd, the Almonds, George Harrison. Max, you're doing a great job on Wednesday nights. Check out the MadMaxMix.weebly.com on Wednesday nights from 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And then the very next night on Thursday night, JC show live from the pub with JC. He'll play your request. JC's got a chat box area where you can chat him your request at LakeEufaulaHits.com. Great internet radio where it's all good. Now, you can go to bigjreport.com. We've got the links for Mad Max's show and also for JC's Live from the Pub show on Thursday nights. Mad Max's show is on Wednesday nights. And again, for your real estate needs, Saucer Realty and Capital, there's a link for Saucer Realty and Capital on our homepage near the North Florida weather area. So we're talking Jaguars, high school football. Boy, it turned much colder in North Florida on Monday, November the 10th of 2025, and we had a low temperature in Jacksonville, Florida of 28 degrees on Tuesday morning, November the 11th of 2025. NFL season come from behind disasters. The Jaguars blew a 29-10 lead and lost to the Houston Texans 36-29 back on Sunday, November the 9th of 2025. Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp won the complete AAA baseball championship. Not only did they win the International League, but then they played the Pacific Coast League champions and beat them as well. So the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp in late September, they won AAA baseball's complete championship. The Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp having a AAA baseball season for the ages, and they won the AAA baseball championship. The Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp won it in 2025. Again, the Jacksonville Icemen now 7-5. They skate their home games at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena right here in Jacksonville, Florida. High school football. some interesting things. Ed White is still playing football. I'll tell you something interesting. Ed White broke a record for scoring points in a season. Ed White's like way over 500 points offensively. I was looking for the exact total. I think it's around 536 points. It's amazing. Ed White broke a record, and this is a state of Florida record where the Ed White Commanders have scored well over 500, and I believe it's right around 536 points in the season. Eufaula, Alabama got knocked out by Williamson 50-14. And again, Ed White, they're putting the points up. The only problem Ed White's have, they've given up a lot of points too, over the season. And Ed White has had some defensive struggles, especially against some really good teams across Jacksonville and Northeast Florida. So I was looking for the point total. I think it's around, it is, not 536, it's 537 points. I've got it here, 537 points by Ed White during the 2025 season. That is a high school football record in the state of Florida. By the way, King, I believe his name is pronounced Boylston. King Boylston, the quarterback at Ed White, how about this? He is a junior. So he'll be back next season for the Ed White Commanders. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that if you're an Ed White guy like myself, isn't that a great thing? Yeah, you're tuned in to the Teal Shirt Report podcast, episode show number 64. Let's talk a little high school football here. The high school playoffs well underway. The first round in the state of Florida going on. I believe Alabama's like into the second round now. Amazing. We got a few Georgia scores too, and we'll put even more up on the website. So if you follow high school football, go to our homepage at bigjreport.com. Scroll the homepage in the area. You'll see an area that says North Florida News and high school football scores. Go to that area and just scroll down. You'll see the scores. I'm looking at it now. And let me see here. High school football scores. The best team in Jacksonville's got to be Rains. They eliminated Baker County. Bowles is up there probably in the top 3 or 4 teams in Northeast Florida as well. Bowles 63, Walton 13 a final, Rains 43, Baker County Wildcats 6 a final. Mandarin has got to be in the top 4 or 5 probably in Northeast Florida. Mandarin, where Carson Beck, the Miami quarterback who also played at Georgia before that. Mandarin is still playing football. Mandarin beat Crestview. Mandarin 42, Crestview 14, a final score. Trinity Christian Academy started out really slowly early in the year, but man, they're in the playoffs like they usually are, and they just beat Providence. Trinity Christian Academy 42, Providence 16. Columbia County, Florida, Lake City 35. Tallahassee Rickards, nothing, a final score. Daytona Mainland 34, Middleburg 13. St. Augustine, who Ed White will play in just a few days at St. Augustine. St. Augustine rolled Arnold. St. Augustine 70, Arnold 21, a final. West Nassau 24, Fernandina Beach 10. Ed White beat Pine Forest. Ed White district champions, and now they've won their first round playoff game. This was at Commander Stadium. Ed White 41, Pine Forest 20, the final. Baldwin 31, Florida State High School 42. So actually, Florida State High 42, Baldwin 31. So Baldwin eliminated. May Clay 39, NEFI 18 a final. University Christian still alive. They got a really good team too. University Christian 55, Trinity Catholic 14 a final. And a lot of these schools play in different classifications, like Ed White is in 4A. Again, University Christian 55, Trinity Catholic 14 a final. Nice, where Tim Tebow played his high school football. Nice 45, Oak Leaf 7 a final. Nice has got a good team too. Ponte Vedra, listen to this game now. Ponte Vedra played Niceville. The game went into overtime. Ponte Vedra leading 31-30. Niceville scores, and they don't go for 2 points, but they try to kick the tying extra point, and it was blocked by Ponte Vedra, and Ponte Vedra won that game. And by the way, that information came to me from, of course, John Gaylor. Thank you so much, John. Ponte Vedra 31, Niceville 30, a final in overtime. Beachside beat Milton. That's pretty good. You know, Beachside from Northeast Florida beat a Panhandle team. Years and years ago, boy, teams from North and Northeast Florida or Northeast Florida had trouble going to the Panhandle or even beating the Panhandle teams. Beachside 23, Milton 7. D-Land, you know, I saw this post on Facebook. D-Land 70, Creekside 21, a final. Bishop Kenny wins their playoff game. Bishop Kenny 43, Wakulla 19. West Florida 24, Yulee 16, the final on Friday night, November the 14th of 2025. Up in Georgia, let's see a few scores in Georgia. High school football playoffs. Brunswick 78, Winder Barrow 30, a final. Charlton County still alive. The Charlton County, I believe they're called the Indians. The Charlton County, Georgia Indians 35. Macon County 7, a final. Ware County, Georgia 44. Flowery Branch 27, a final. Also Jackson County, Georgia 50. And Glen Academy 7 as they get eliminated. That final score was on Friday night, November the 14th. Again, Eufaula in Alabama was eliminated from the playoffs, and they had a pretty good season. They lost a couple of games here and there, but had a pretty good season overall for Eufaula. In Alabama, Williamson 50, Eufaula, Alabama Tigers 14, a final on Friday, back on November the 7th in the earlier week to the weekend that we're talking about where Ed White beat Pine Forest. So that's a look at some high school football playoff scores. The Jacksonville Jaguars will host the Chargers. That game is today. Let's go back to that game for just a moment. That's a 1 o'clock kickoff today on Sunday afternoon, November the 16th. The Chargers, a 3-point favorite. Our source, though, says the LA Chargers will win the game. Jacksonville will cover the spread, and the total of 44 points will go over. The key to this game is going to be Herbert and the Jaguars pass rush, and even vice versa on the other side with Trevor Lawrence and his receivers have got to be to catch the football and hold on to it. The Jaguars have some injured wide receivers, as you know, but that offensive line, they've got to keep that running game going. I think the Jags got to get the running game going and got to get some confidence for Trevor Lawrence and the offense. And again, quarterback Trevor Lawrence has got to protect the football. And more importantly, he's got to complete some big passes and kind of keep his wits about him. You know, sometimes when the receivers drop the ball, the offensive line is a breakdown in coverage. I've seen Trevor in a game or two actually briefly panic, in my opinion, and that's not a good thing. Everything's got to come together. These have been team losses. The main areas of problems for the Jaguars have been their defensive line. I love our defensive backs and linebackers, but the main problem for the Jaguars has been their defensive line, their offensive line, the wide receivers maybe breaking off across the middle routes, at times dropping the football, and then the O-line, the D-line, Trevor Lawrence protecting the football, and the wide receivers hanging on to the ball, and the penalties. It's a lot going on. It really is. And Liam Cohen, man, if I had to do it over again, and I'm winning 29-10, I'm kicking that extra point. Otherwise, why would you go for 2? Hey, they might come back and catch us. You don't ever want to have it. When you're ahead of a team by 2 or 3 touchdowns, you don't ever want to have a mindset as, hey, they might come back and beat us. No, the mindset should be our offense needs to put this game away. That's a Teal Shirt Report podcast. I'm your host, Scott. I want to thank our sponsors on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We absolutely want to thank our sponsors, Saucer Realty and Capital, the MadMaxMix.weebly.com on Wednesday nights, Max's Internet radio request show. And on Thursday nights, live from the pub with JC. Great show. John Gaylor listens. I think John Gaylor's mentioning the Mad Max mix too. So, Max, I think he's going to be listening to your show as well. Max, thanks for the request. He got ARS on ARS playing that Georgia rhythm. And Max plays a lot of great music on Wednesday nights at madmaxmix.weebly.com. And JC's show the very next night, JC live from the pub at LakeUFallHits.com. Great internet radio. Want to say thank you to our producers, our executive producer, JC. Also, Alex Nunnery. Check out Alex's high school football report videos on this same channel. And please subscribe to our channel. Hit the like button. Subscribe to our channel like a lot of people are doing. And, man, we appreciate it so very, very much. I am absolutely your host, Scott, for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. This has been episode show number 64. Go Jags. Do ball. This has been the Teal Shirt Report podcast. You guys have a great day. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.